Wait Your Queer podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded of the Wurundjeri people. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, as this podcast is about storytelling, connecting with one another and empowering each other to make an impact today and a difference for the future.
This is a non-judgmental platform that tells the individual stories of our queer community. Any homophobia or abuse will be immediately reported. Hey folks, welcome to the first episode of Wait You're Queer
Wait, you're queer?
with your host Brooke Cleal and her beautiful girlfriend.
Alyssa Linegas.
Oh.
Not me. Which one?
If you are one of our queer listeners or even straight but questioning a few little things about yourself and just wanting to know more about the community, you are on the right platform. We have been so excited about announcing this podcast for so long now, and we finally get to share it with our friends and family, but also you listeners out there who want to know more about the queer community, and it's just so exciting for us. We've been trying to keep this a secret now for how long?
I think we've been trying to keep it a secret for maybe 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
longer.
And that's a long time for me.
Yeah, you can't keep secrets at the best of times. Oh yeah, I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. And then I find out Brooks told everyone. Literally, friends of friends, they'd come over to me and be like, wow, congrats. And I'm like, hang on, this was meant to be a secret.
You didn't hear it from me.
Yeah, Brooks like, I have no idea where that came from.
Starting this podcast, it came from quite a dark situation that Alyssa and I were in. We had booked an anniversary holiday interstate, didn't we? And it was supposed to be a beautiful cruise line that we were probably supposed to have the best night of our lives, but we experienced extreme homophobic abuse. We were verbally attacked and
laughed at, discriminated against,
completely.
Teamed up against.
Yeah,
pretty much
went against us, didn't they? And we feel it's important that other people know that you are supported, because when we came off that experience, we almost felt like we didn't have a lot of support. We didn't feel very heard. We felt quite invisible, didn't we?
Yeah, we didn't know where to share it that would make an impact. We thought we could go to the police, but what are they going to do? It's not something that they can actually do anything about. So we thought we'd create this platform where people can actually share their experiences, and it will go somewhere, and we can talk about it and digest it and really try and come up with solutions together.
When we did post about it on Instagram, we had other people messaging us and saying that I've been in the same experience as you, and there's nowhere where you can really report it, or a community where we can share these types of stories and feel supported by one another. So, I think for us, we sort of were doing some brainstorming, weren't we? And here we are.
So this is the beautiful butterfly that came from that situation.
Perfect.
So the way we're going to structure this podcast is each week we're going to have a different guest who's going to share their lived experiences in the queer community, telling us stories about good experiences in the community, bad experiences in the community. Each episode we're also going to have a driving question that is going to be posed from the perspective of our guest, which might be about their sexual orientation, their gender identity, or something about the queer community that they just want to discuss with us. So this week, to get us started, it is one of us. It is our amazing Brooke Cleal.
I like this intro. I could get used to this.
Brooke is my beautiful girlfriend, which I feel very fortunate to have every day. She is a cat mum.
I am a cat mum now, but it also doesn't diminish the fact I love my doggies as well.
She is a animal lover and an empath and a occupational therapist. Yeah, she works in healthcare and she's very passionate about helping people. I know Brooke is the most empathetic, beautiful person in the world.
I'm
So
glad we're recording this.
don't use it against me later.
Just when you get mad at me, I'll just play that over and over again.
The most beautiful person I've ever met.
Empathetic, good listener.
Good looking. No, well, yes, that too. Yeah, so we're getting started with Brooke today. So Brooke, yeah.
So funny because Alyssa actually never calls me Brooke. So I think it just caught me off guard just when you looked at me and you're like, so Brooke, I thought I got in trouble.
When I use your full name, you know you're in trouble. This is a serious thing now.
It is.
Honestly, I want to know,
Yeah.
and your listeners want to know. So tell us who you are, your sexuality, your age, what you do, where were you raised, your relationship status.
That's
I think we already know that one.
it. Yeah, so a little bit about me. So my name is Brooke. Obviously, I'm 31 years old and I am bisexual. I grew up in Melbourne's inner city suburbs. I went to an all-girls school and then I went on to study occupational therapy. I'm from a family of five. I'm obviously the youngest in my family, and I don't know if it'll be very obvious on this podcast, but I'm trying to be mature as possible.
It's obvious to me.
I have an older brother and sister. My older brother is actually gay, and my older sister, she's heterosexual. And I'm not sure if that matters. My parents are separated. My dad lives down the country, and my mum lives 5 minutes from me, as Alyssa knows. She's helicopter mum vibes. She absolutely adores us. She loves Alyssa as well, and it's been a very positive, I guess, very positive to see them bond and get along so well. So yeah, it makes my heart very warm.
We love Brooke's mum, and Nacho loves Brooke's mum. She's Grandma Susie, who brings all the treats.
Oh yes, oh yes, and the vet doesn't like it because Nacho is now very overweight, but that's fine. So I grew up quite sporty. I played soccer for 4 years and netball pretty much my whole life. The only thing with netball was it's a no contact sport, so I really struggled a lot in it considering my elbows go wild when I'm playing against people.
You totally are one of those nudges.
Love it. I love the gym. I love anything competitive. As you probably know, Alyssa, when we first met, was so competitive to the point Alyssa just didn't care and still beat me at everything. And then it absolutely made me crazy that I've had to
I remember that date we went on where we went to Archie's, one of those arcade places.
Yeah.
And I remember I kept getting all the basketball hoops in, and I could see like steam coming out of your ears.
I was actually happy for you.
Really?
Yeah, I was happy.
Yeah.
But until you started antagonizing me.
Yeah. And I said, I actually don't care if I win.
All right,
So we digress, but we're back on track.
Back on track. Okay. Probably in my 20s, I was a bit more of a party girl. I loved meeting new people, but now I think that I've met Alyssa, I feel like I've calmed down a lot. And we live in the outer suburbs of Melbourne now. We live in a beautiful house and we've got our little fur baby, and I feel like we almost live a little bit of a country lifestyle, but I don't mind it.
Brooke says that as the inner city girl, whereas I grew up way further out, and this is like inner city for me. So we're meeting in the middle.
We're meeting in the middle, but I love to cook. That's another thing. I used to eat out probably like 5 days a week or something, and then when I met Alyssa, she was like, "You really need to like hone that in because that's going to be quite expensive for us." So now I've adopted a cooking Sunday afternoon ritual where I love cooking for you, and
it works great for me because I love eating.
so in between that time, I was in and out of travel constantly through my 20s. I've traveled all of Europe solo and Canada. I've done a lot of Southeast Asia with my mum, and I visited my homeland, which is Sri Lanka, and very warm, wholesome trip. Being with my family and reconnecting with my roots.
I am actually still waiting to get taken to Sri Lanka. I've been cooked a bunch of Sri Lankan meals now, and I absolutely love it. But I'm still waiting to go to Sri Lanka with you. So tell us, what has your relationship background been like?
A lot of my 20s was consumed of heterosexual dating. I actually never knew about my bisexuality until my late 20s. So, yeah, I've had quite a few boyfriends over the years, but only really two great loves that were males that stole my heart. My first love, we dated for about 7 years, and he was just a very beautiful, sort of gentle alpha male. And I think that's why it really took me by surprise. He was this big rugby sort of bloke, but he had this really beautiful energy about him. Sorry, is this
Yeah, no, it's fine. I love hearing
right? Okay, but you know, like I said, lovely guy, but he just really struggled with commitment and then sort of called it quits after that. And then I had a bit of time between my second love. I sort of partied for 2 years. I was dating a lot of blokes in that time. And all I can say was after going and dating someone who was just so fantastic for 7 years, it was a bit of a shock to my system. Dating in the kind of heterosexual male world of Melbourne, I found it was quite
a fall from grace.
um
It's tricky going from someone that is so amazing and you know so much about to having to relearn that
yeah,
with
exactly.
with someone else that may never meet those standards that you had with that person.
100%. I think I was actually close to having a baby with this person and getting married at like 22, which is berserk, isn't it? Because you know me now.
Mm,
And I've gone through commitment struggles, like
yeah.
so many things. But I think I was just such a freshie and ready to be like,
Yeah.
okay, so he's like my first boyfriend. I'm ready
Mm.
to pretty much marry you and have a
Yeah.
baby.
And that's the normal thing that happens with
Yeah.
heterosexual couples. A lot
Yeah.
of the time you're together for a certain amount of time and then
Mhm.
you know the next step is to having a house and
Mm.
having babies and things like that. So it's a normal progression
Absolutely.
that you
I
were going
think,
through.
yeah, we were just following that progression, but he went through a lot within his own traumas. Like he lost his dad throughout our relationship. So essentially we lost that phase of going clubbing together and doing house parties together. We had to be quite mature quite quickly, and he
Yeah.
became the man of his household and had to look after his mum and that kind of stuff. So he sort of missed those years, and what happened was they crept back up on us
Yeah.
later on, and he wanted to then travel on his own. He wanted to live on his own. So
Yeah.
after 7 years, I was like, he's got the 7 year itch. And, unfortunately, it wasn't in my favor.
Yeah.
So we called it quits, and it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me because, as you know, I've just grown so much.
You have, but you've also learned what a good relationship
Yeah.
can be
Mm,
from that.
absolutely. Which leads me into my second love, and he was an ex AFL player. I absolutely hate the stigma of AFL footy players, but they don't make it easy for us as well, do they? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, he was someone who really fell into that stigma of doing lots of drugs, partying. I found it was a very toxic, unstable relationship of 2 years, which I am quite happy to acknowledge and say I probably contributed to that as well. But I think we honestly just lost ourselves. So, which leads me to sort of say, through our breakup period, which was like sleeping together, but also we weren't in a relationship anymore.
The classic, you're still sleeping together once you've already broken up
Yes.
because it's so addictive.
So addictive. Like I was just so addicted to the highs and lows of the relationship. And I found that, I was still trying to date after that relationship. And I found it was so boring because I was like, I'm just used to so much thrill and excitement that this person gave me that for some reason, I just can't get that sort
You
of
can't even,
fulfillment
yeah,
in my life anymore.
you
Like,
can't be in a stable, normal relationship because there aren't those extreme highs and extreme lows that
mm,
make you feel weirdly alive.
mm, absolutely. I guess it was a hectic breakup, and I recognized that in the end I was in something so unhealthy, and that if I don't get out of it, I'm essentially going to be with this person forever. That we're not the best versions of ourselves, and unfortunately, we just weren't compatible. in that sense of just being healthy and creating safe spaces for each other. So, but I was determined and keen to move forward with my life. And, I wanted to sort of squeeze out that toxicity out of my body and just sort of rejuvenate for a couple of months and, really put myself back on track again.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. An amazing thing to do. So you were on a TV show called The Bachelor.
hmm
How did you find it, and what was it like coming off national TV?
Oh my God. Here we are talking about toxicity. Well, I mean, that was just a mild version. We're talking about The Bachelor now, which was like the unhealthy process for people to go through. But how it started was, me and my best friend were sort of sitting around in the lounge room watching TV, and she's like, "Oh my God, we should totally apply." I was like,
A classic
yeah,
Saturday night.
it is. It is. I also don't really speak to that girl anymore anyways. But yeah, she was like, "Oh, we should totally apply." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let's do it." It's
I
like
love that.
literally 3 wines down. So we did, we applied, and I was getting called up for auditions, interviews. Then they started asking me to do health tests and things like that. STI checks, STD checks, and I was like, fuck, I was just with like the most toxic person.
That would have been stressful.
It was very stressful, but no, it was all fine. Wink, wink. So then I was accepted after like probably 2 months of this unpredictable process that they'd invited me into, and had no idea every day what was happening, but I was just getting so many emails. I finally got accepted, and I couldn't believe it because I am a healthcare worker, but I had such a small group of friends. I only had like 200 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
I was like, no idea what this is all about, but I absolutely love The Bachelor. I was like, yeah, why not give it a go? Just see what this is all about.
It's great from the outside.
I seem to love toxicity, so bring me in. So anyways, packed up my apartment. Actually still had my ex-boyfriend trying to contact me. And he was sort of hovering over me. He actually messaged one of my friends when I was in the experience, asking me if I was okay. Because when you go onto the show, you go off the grid. So you go off your phone, you go off your socials, everything. And depending on how long you're in there for, if you're in there for, say, like 3 or 4 months, people would probably start to question, is that girl okay?
Yeah, I haven't heard from this person for 4 months.
Exactly.
Where are they?
100%.
And you're not allowed to obviously tell them that you're going on a show.
Yeah.
So that would just be like blink of an eye, you're off the grid.
Exactly. Probably one of the most polarizing experiences of my entire life. I was on the show for a total of 10 weeks, but I had to leave. I had to leave the show for 2 weeks, and that's because my grandpa passed away through the experience. So I didn't really get to have a normal experience like a lot of the girls. I think mine was very tainted with grief. And a lot of instability, and there was no support on this TV show at all. So essentially, you're sort of navigating this all on your own, because also these girls are in it for themselves. And as much as you formulate bonds with people, you sort of have at the back of your mind,
This is a competition.
This is a competition at the end of the day. So, yeah, I had a close connection with The Bachelor. He was a super lovely person, very genuine, very kind. He was funny, and it was refreshing because I just hadn't been used to that in such a long time.
Well, you've said that you've come out of just a toxic up and down relationship, and this is someone that's shown you the opposite of that.
Exactly. And I actually could recognize that, it probably wasn't healthy to go into an experience after something so toxic. But you sort of also think to yourself, like, when is ever the right time in life anyways? I mean, you've given an opportunity. Do you just let it go by, or do you learn from it?
I know you as someone that will always take opportunities as soon as they're put in front of you. So I'm not surprised you jumped on there and gave it a go, because that's what you do, and that's how you learn things. And that's why you're the amazing person you are now.
Yeah. Thank you, baby. That's nice. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying though, after about 7 weeks, I got a call to say that my grandpa died on set, so I flew back to Melbourne, which was such a shock for me. I looked at my grandpa as a father figure in my life. He supported our family. He was an incredibly intelligent person, and he was also very, very fond of me, and we had a very close bond together. So it was a bit of a shock to my sister. Apparently, my sister was saying though it took like 5 phone calls to get through to speak to me on set. She was like, "What the hell?" It was like secret services of like,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
She was
Yeah.
like, can someone freaking tell like my sister that her grandpa's just died? Like, why does it take this much?
That is ridiculous
I
that it
know.
is so hard to contact. And like, that is worst case scenario.
Mm.
But even in any context, you should be able to contact your family and have, a few people that are allowed to be contacted throughout a show.
Exactly. Well, we did get contacts and stuff. So we
Yeah.
got to speak to our families once a fortnight for 10 minutes on the phone, supervised.
Oh, okay. So that
So
you had plenty of time to talk to your
yeah,
family.
and we pretty much just cried the whole time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So
If I
yeah,
don't, if I don't speak to my family for 2 weeks, I'll cry for those 10 minutes anyway. Let alone being in an experience where you're like
100%.
isolated.
Exactly. And also probably if this gives you context, but you don't get a phone on the show.
Yeah.
And you also don't have access to the outside world. So you're stuck in this house, and if you do get a date, that's your only time of getting out of the house, which for some girls didn't get a date at all. So
Yeah.
as you can imagine, being stuck in these sort of small spaces and, within this very tense environment every day, it was extremely tolling on some of these girls' mental health. And a lot of people can also be quite triggered seeing other people feeling so mentally unwell too. So it was a very vicious cycle at some points. And, I think for me I was lucky in a sense that I did have a close bond with him because I got to go out the house quite a lot, and I guess that was a bit of a savior, to
Yeah.
um
That would be your outlet from this house and this
yeah,
like almost consuming toxicity of um, people and their mental health battles in such a confined, isolated experience.
exactly. So I flew back the next day. It was incredibly tough coming home because it was almost like coming out of something so trying and intense with like 10 people with you every day, doing your hair, doing your makeup, choosing dresses, this, that, putting you on script, things like that, that you come back to a house that's feeling very, very dark, very emotional. My mum was grieving a lot. She'd only lost my nan as well 2 years before that. She was also an executor of her will, so she was navigating her family. My dad was also planning to move down the country. And it was so much. I knew I was losing my family home. I just lost my almost my second father figure. I was supporting my mum. My sister lived interstate. She lived up in Alice. So, I didn't exactly have someone to just sit there and cry to when I got home and just be like, what the hell has just happened to me? I just had to put it to the side, put my emotions to the side and move forward and just get on with it, because yeah, I didn't have
You jumped straight into support mode because you had to.
exactly.
It's like a fight or flight response, isn't it?
Yeah, I was also getting text messages from the producers asking me if I'm coming back, and also messages from the Bachelor saying he misses me. And I probably had no idea at that point if it was a setup because I'm so vulnerable,
Yeah.
and it was extremely confusing. I thought, is this real? I don't know. Like, once
Yeah.
again, I'm not allowed to have too much access with people being back at home. And it's not like I can go and tell all my friends, like, hey, I'm in this experience. Like, we have to sign like a waiver before we go in. We can't tell anyone what we're doing. So
Yeah.
the whole thing just felt so isolating. Went back into the experience after 2 weeks, which was probably one of the worst things I ever did. But I tell myself that if I didn't do it though, I'd always be questioning what would have happened.
Yeah. What if?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I thought, Look, I'll go back. I'll finish this because when I start something, I also finish it. I have to. It's just part of who I am as a person. It would just completely eat me up. But
Yeah. Once again, you're a go-getter. There's no experience I've ever seen you not follow through, so I'm not surprised.
yeah. So yeah, I went back in. It was probably one of the most anxiety rattling things because when you're feeling anxious and you're grieving, intensity can feel so much for our brains. The neuroplasticity of our brain would just be like on fire. And I essentially thought to myself that, oh my God, I'm not going to be who I am when I came into this. So I
Yeah.
wasn't. That's the honest truth. I was completely heightened. I was saying things I don't even know what I was saying. My brain is already hyperactive as it is. I just found that I was losing myself. The outcome of the show, I was a runner up. So I was the girl who didn't make it. Yeah, so I guess coming back to Melbourne, it was almost like the way I describe it, probably what it would feel like for people to come out of jail.
Coming back from Alcatraz.
100%, like,
Yeah, you have no voice to the outside world. You don't
no
know what's
voice.
going on in the news. You don't know what's going on with your friends and your family. What was it like coming back and like what had changed? What was the same?
So my family home was no longer there because my parents had separated. My grandpa's home had also been sold up. I moved into a little apartment in South Yarra. And it was weird. It was a weird feeling because I usually would go over and visit my parents, and I'd walk into a big family home, and mum would be cooking, and dad be sitting next to the fire, and my brother would be looming around somewhere. But yeah, it was really weird. It had all had completely changed. And so coming home, I was fatigued. It was a very dark space for me. So I think I only had 7 weeks from coming off the show until it actually going live on TV, which is not a lot of time either.
That is so quick.
So you can imagine it's mukbang. Like you've just done the experience and then boom, you're watching yourself on telly. And oh my God, it was very exciting. Like, anyways, yeah, look, the first few episodes, what a laugh. Like the shit that was coming out our mouths. Like I just thought, holy shit, I can tell I was so heightened and I'm so not used to being in front of a camera. My brain operates in the sense of like just talking shit 24/7. So
Your romance is banter. We love to banter. That's it. So
love hunt in the morning. I'd be like, what are you doing?
what is wrong with you? Yeah. Why are you giving me this heart? Take it back, please.
If you sent me like
A dad joke.
love it, I'd be like, this girl's really cool.
That's what won a razor. That's what did it, folks.
It is.
My bad dad jokes.
So, anyways, about halfway into the show, I just became this person I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Someone I was watching that I was like, oh my God, I don't recognize that girl anymore. I don't recognize myself. There was even elements of him I didn't recognize either.
Yeah.
I know him as probably more a playful, kind of fun person, but I almost felt like he was portrayed as someone quite serious.
Yeah.
And, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last few episodes got very dark very quickly. And obviously, what comes with that is social scrutiny, almost social suicide, and there was a lot of character assassination going on for me that I just found it got so big I couldn't defend myself. I didn't even watch, I'm pretty sure, my finale episode. I don't recognize these women anymore. That's the problem, except for the girl who won. She has to have a golden minute. People have to love her because she wins his heart. And so that would make the most successful, happy stories for TV.
Yeah, and that's what they want. They want
that.
The happy marriage, the Prince Charming and the princess end up together.
So I could see that my character was assassinated to fit the mold of how this TV show works.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible thing. It really is.
Yeah.
For someone who kind of thought this would be fun to do for a couple of weeks, which then turned into months, my life really changed a lot. So pretty much coming off, from watching those TV shows, I knew I had to restructure myself, but I had no idea how. I didn't know how to defend myself. I was absolutely exhausted.
You are such a strong, wonderful woman, and you're an empathetic person, and the person I've got to know and everyone around you in your life knows you as is probably not exactly that. And it would be confusing for yourself seeing that and being like, hang on, who am I?
Exactly. You already know this, Alyssa, a little bit. It's very hard for me to talk about these next few months, so I'm not going to really dive into them too much. I really don't want to sort of go back to that headspace that I was in. But let's just say I was a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, seeing a guy from my work. I was working crazy hours. I would connect with people and would hope they actually didn't know me. And I found that they were the people I wanted to be close to because they didn't have preconceived judgment. They didn't know who I was. And I felt like they would just get to know me for me. And that was really important. I ended up seeing a guy who was also an OT. And he was funny. He was just what I needed.
Just what you need to take your mind off it. Someone funny, someone lighthearted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was an empath. He was a really beautiful person. And oh God, we just got along. We really did.
We love healthcare workers. They always are.
Absolutely.
How did you overcome all of this? And I think the question that everyone really wants to know as well is, what was the coming out story after all of this?
I've never been in a situation where I've questioned my sexuality before this night. So I've always, like I said, I've always just thought that I was going to be on a pathway of marrying a man and having a baby. But so what happened was some of the Bachelor girls were like, come on, let's all go out for dinner. Let's have some drinks. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That'd be really nice. So we went out. I think actually two of the girls were bisexual and one was heterosexual, similar to myself. And I was actually quite close with two of them. But the third girl, she did the experience with us, but I think she went out after like the first or second week. And at this dinner, she was telling me a lot about her experiences and that she loves dating women and I was really intrigued to hear this because it was so far from my reality at that stage. And I was like, really? Like, that's so full on.
Yeah. Had you met many bisexual or queer people at this point in your life?
Nope. Nope.
Just a fully hetero world you were living in.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I think whenever I heard someone was like bisexual or gay, I think I just found it so far from my reality that I didn't even really bother to educate myself because I thought that's just not me at all.
Yeah. And that's classic. And that's why, it is our job now too, when we have people in our lives, to educate them, whether they want it or not sometimes. It's just important to share that.
Exactly.
So what happened next?
It was very interesting seeing this gorgeous girl standing up for queer rights and saying I love women now and her experience, her positive experiences with queer girlies and things like that. I found it fascinating and just what I needed after doing a misogynistic TV show. I was like, tell me more.
Yeah. So you had these experiences with men, you had a toxic relationship, The Bachelor, and then you had
a guy as well at
and
this
then,
point, the guy from my work.
Yeah, and now this is exactly what you need and exactly where you need to be.
I think I also found a weird power imbalance as well because I didn't know anything about this community, so I automatically felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I found that vulnerability almost kind of added to the attraction.
Yeah, I 100% get that. I think it is. It's an exciting feeling. It's something completely new.
Yeah.
And exciting to explore. So tell us about the night that was the first experience.
We started bonding a lot. We started talking about like some of the guys that we've dated in the past and why it's made us the girls that we are. And then, she started telling me a little bit about the girls that she's been seeing and, and then we sort of just went on this really great storytelling train for dinner. And we found that we were all sitting there for hours and then we thought, should we all go out for a bit of a dance after this? And by this stage, like, I think I was feeling somewhat attracted to this person, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
how that was being perceived.
I'm now exposed to it, experiencing it, and into it.
Yeah. And I was just infatuated. After that, we all went out for a bit of a dance, and I obviously always I got a little bit silly. Oopsie.
Oh, that doesn't sound like you.
So I went in for the kiss and it was reciprocated, and we ended up, kissing and having fun and all dancing, and then we chatted for a little bit after the night. I think I did the classic kind of coming out thing where you become probably a bit weirdly obsessed
Yeah,
because you're like, what the
we
hell
do.
is happening to me? Like,
Yeah, you're looking for validation, you're looking for support, you're looking for so many
yeah,
things from this one person that probably has been through this in the past and
yeah.
doesn't always know.
Like
Yeah,
she said that she was like, I like literally was obsessed with my first partner.
we all are. We've all got that first one.
Yeah. I didn't know any queer people in my life other than my brother, but I felt that, Chris being my brother, we could bond on other sort of things, but I don't think the intensity was navigated enough for me. And I was sort of bombarding this girl with so many questions that I think she was like, whoa, like, I don't really know how to help you. And that is so fair enough. I was asking her some really heavy things, like,
Yeah, maybe she hadn't even figured them out for herself yet.
yeah, exactly. So like it was really full on, and I then went on to some dating apps, and I made the big decision to turn my dating apps to girls,
Oh,
which was
that's
a
the moment.
huge thing.
Yeah.
But I also felt once again that judgment and fear creeping in, because I thought, what if someone sees me, takes a screenshot, and then I end up on the Daily Mail again with my sausage roll and $1 coffee? So I put it onto girlies, and I found it really hard online dating girls. For the reasons being, I found it really fun to match with someone. No one would really like me, and I wasn't sure if it was because they had recognized my face, they just didn't like what they maybe saw on telly, or whether it was probably came across as that lipstick lesbian that looked very, very, very femme.
A lot of lesbians maybe or don't really want to support someone through their sexuality sometimes because they've already done it
Mm,
themselves and they want someone who's already deep enough in it that they don't have to go backwards
yeah,
or they don't have to see someone who's not fully out in the queer community. So that can be a challenge for someone trying to make their way into the queer community.
exactly. So I think also it was that there was some trust that I was, in it for the right reasons. And I actually had a few girls message me through my Instagram and screenshot my profile on Hinge
Mm.
to me and say, is this actually you, or is this a catfish of you?
Oh wow. Yeah, because you wouldn't expect someone who's come off, I guess, what's perceived as a heterosexual TV show
Hmm.
to then be flicking through Tinder and see them on there. That would be quite shocking.
Yep, and then I would go into my emotional hangover mode where I would feel sick about, oh my God, I've not done the right thing. Someone's going to catch me out before I can even tell people my
Yeah,
story.
before you get to
And
come.
then I'm going to be scrutinized again,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be a whole nother thing. So there was a lot of anxiety around my dating. And the girls that I was meeting, a lot of them were bisexual as well. And, I think I did need someone who potentially had maybe a bit more experience, because I was finding that they were also in the same boat as me. And we actually would always laugh at the end of the
Yeah.
night and be like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah, someone needs
you
to
know,
take the reins. You kind of
yeah.
do sometimes need almost a guide
Mm.
who's been through it. I
Mhm.
know I definitely had that experience where I had someone who'd been through it and that helped me. So it's yeah, it's hard dating someone who's at the same level
Yeah,
as you in
exactly.
in those beginning stages of finding
Yeah.
your sexuality.
Did find it interesting that I was attracted to a lot of bisexuals as well.
Mm.
Like rarely had lesbians message me. And I'm not sure if that's because I was almost pre-identified as that girl from The Bachelor. So maybe there was just that interest to
Yeah.
meet with me and have a drink and be like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't mind that either. And it actually sort of gave me a bit of practice before I met you, which was
Yeah, they were just the warm-ups for me. Thank you, girls. Right, that comes to, I guess, that stage. What
Yeah.
happens?
So I guess, I was dating a lot of girlies. I also, sex was a big part of this dating world, like in the sense where we'd sort of have a few drinks and then we'd get to the end of the night and they'd be like, do you want to come home with me? I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so not yet, but maybe like
Maybe a few more dates.
yes, 4 dates would be good.
Yeah.
But it moves very quick. And I
Yeah.
think
So you didn't move in with the girls on the second date? Is that I know that's the classic lesbian thing to do, and you didn't do that. That is like groundbreaking. Well done.
which leads me to say how I came across Alyssa. She cancelled our first date.
Yeah, you got to treat 'em mean, keep 'em clean.
Yes.
So we went on our first date. What were you thinking before?
Well, our first day, let's give everyone a bit of context. It was in northern suburbs of Melbourne, in Brunswick. We went to the classic lesbian territory of Melbourne.
Of course we did. We had to.
And I was very nervous. I actually was coming off another date. So I was actually quite hungover. You
Yeah.
already know that.
I do. Yeah.
It's
She
a
didn't.
shock.
She didn't even care about our first date.
I did care.
I'm just trying to get some validation.
Wait,
This is
to
a
your
great.
episode.
All right, fine.
I feel like that's been your mission in our relationship to
Yeah.
get some validation.
Yeah, it's my biggest mission in life.
But back to the date. So I met Alyssa at a beautiful cocktail bar in Brunswick.
Abacus Finch.
Abacus Finch. I feel like you can tell a lot from someone by the cocktail they drink.
You can.
I got an espresso, but you got this weird witch cocktail that they had at the back of the book, and I'm never gonna forget it. And you started like going on about like witchiness and things like that, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Bringing up the star signs, bringing up the moon, all those classic things.
Lesbian, and I was
Classic
like,
lesbian storytelling things.
I'm not in bisexual world anymore.
I have a charmed tattoo. I am going to order this witch cocktail.
So actually, I should say just before that, you walked in with so much confidence and like the biggest smile on your face. And I just went, wow, okay. Wow.
That's because I didn't have a date the night before.
True. Very, very true. So yeah, she walks in, she's absolutely beaming, and I'm like, right, I get it. Like I'm Brooke from The Bachelor, but I don't
Oh,
really.
stop it.
So, anyways, she sits down and she's like rambles for about 5 or 10 minutes. I can't get a word in at this point. And then she's like, all right, so tell me about the life of Brooke Cleal. Sorry, I'm never gonna forget.
Really full on.
I'm not gonna forget that quote because it was really endearing. Even though I had no idea what this
Yeah, is the life of me. Yeah.
just listen to Wait Your Queer podcast.
Yeah, wait 2.5 years and then I'll tell you about my life.
So I realized this girl firstly is absolutely gorgeous. She is bubbly, she is funny, and like a good sense of humor for me is cherry on top. I feel like I need in a relationship. I just need that banter to fly.
Yeah.
I just can't sit there and hold it all in and
Be serious.
be serious.
You can't see, but I just fist pumped the air because I finally got my validation. And it's on record.
Coming, but
Oh,
that's right.
no, keep going. Sorry, keep going.
So I at this stage think, holy shit, I am so tired and hungover. I'm gonna have to turn this around because I can't lose this girl now. And I'm actually quite a chatty person, but as you said, I was quite reserved and I was quite quiet.
It was quite shocking for me. You were very reserved.
Anyways, I'm getting horny.
Thinking about that witchy cocktail. Wow.
No,
Yeah.
I went to the bathroom and I thought, holy shit.
Oh, yeah. And then the end of the night, where did we go?
We went to Yaya's. So this was a Saturday night date. I said to Alyssa, I've never been to like a gay club.
Which was just, yeah, not okay in my book. So obviously, being the art queer person that I was, I thought I'd take you under my wing and take you to Yaya's. Yeah.
I think I can happily say this, but I was so obsessed with you, and I think you were obsessed with me.
Absolutely.
I thought you were good.
I was utterly obsessed with you, and I didn't expect it.
But we're not going to make our viewers cringe.
Yeah, gross.
But yeah, moving forward, like she was so supportive through my coming out, and I was very lucky in that sense. I had a very supportive girlfriend. I had a very supportive family. It took me a long time. We went through some really rough patches in our relationship, and Alyssa's an Aries and I'm a Leo. So we both have fire signs in our relationship. We have very passionate fights. We have very passionate discussions, and
Very passionate relationship.
we're just very passionate.
We are.
You know, passion.
Passion.
Passion. Yeah, so I guess coming out on a public platform like creates an even bigger
Sense of anxiety.
It's just like another layer that you actually have to process on top of your coming out as well, because you're sort of, I guess, navigating these attitudes of people, these judgments that are already preconceived and that are already out there. I mean, we're always going to relive it. It's the thing. When you're in the media, every single person has an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. We all have them.
Get that on a t-shirt. Opinions are like assholes. We all have them. I am so proud of how far you have come since I've met you. I think the listeners will be so proud of just even hearing your story from beginning to now. I think, you have just achieved so much, and this queer world accepts you and supports you.
Are you like a queer god or something?
You are now accepted. You are one of us.
You are one
of us. One of us. Exactly. After all that, no, okay. So from all of this, what is your takeaway, and what do you want people to know about the queer community and how you've experienced it, how you identify now?
I'm still very much bisexual, and that's the way I identify in the queer community. And, essentially we were talking about trans and bi, and like, where is there a difference between being pan and bi? But I certainly am just attracted to male and male, really. And, I'm not at probably a point where I would be attracted to just the person and the energy. And I think that's where it differentiates potentially
between pansexual and bisexual. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely talk more about pansexuality as the episodes go on. But yeah, bisexuality is a very real thing.
It's very real.
Even if you're in a relationship with a woman, it doesn't mean that it doesn't take away from the fact that you are still bisexual.
100%. And I'll keep this very anonymous, but there's someone in my life that I know that has been queer her whole life, and now she's seeing a man. And, I think she almost, when she told me that she's now seeing a guy, she felt that she had to defend herself. But the thing is, male or female, we're still bisexual. It doesn't matter. Like, just because you dated girls your whole life and then you start dating a guy, it does not mean that bisexuality goes away.
Yeah, it's so true. It feels like you have to justify yourself, or it's almost like you're coming out again, but being straight. But you're not actually straight. You're just bisexual, and
it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum, and that's always going to change because,
it's forever
depending on your environment and the people around you, and the
can still change. Like, in the sense of, like, you can go from bisexuality, you can go to lesbian, to pansexual, to non-binary. It is forever evolving, and that is the most amazing thing about the queer community, is how much you learn and grow from meeting other people where there's no judgment.
So the moral of the story is you can just be whoever and whatever you want to be.
And just be it.
Yes.
That is something I want everyone to take away from today's episode, is if you're listening to this, and you are struggling in some part of your life right now with judgment, character assassination, feeling attitudes of others and all those types of things, you can overcome it. And using the community in a way of listening to each other and understanding each other and navigating it together is very, very important, I think, in that process of it, formulating parts of your identity.
Absolutely. So, just to wrap it all up, your question for the podcast was: are bisexual women and men rejected from the queer community when dating the opposite sex despite identifying as bisexual? And yes, we have already touched on this a little bit, but what is your perception of this, just to finish it up?
No, not rejected.
Yes, you're right. I thought you were looking at me like, no, that wasn't right how you said it. Wow, I tried really hard. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Okay, so absolute big no. They're not rejected from the community. As I said, it's forever evolving. If you're the one in control of your identity, that's completely up to you. But I feel that if you are a bisexual person and you've been dating a woman your whole life and then you go on to date a man, it doesn't exclude you from the community at all. You're still bisexual, you know,
absolutely.
and you are still you're still visible and you're still seen as a bisexual person, and that should be well and truly educated and screened among the community. And
Yeah. So you are always supported, whether you are dating a man, a woman, whatever. If you are bisexual, you are part of this community. And that's something that we're going to be talking about every episode with however you identify in this community. We're all going to be accepted. So thank you, Brooke Cleal, for sharing your story. It was fantastic. And I think that I am blown away, and I know that all of the listeners at home will be absolutely blown away by you.
And I'm really, I have to say, I'm really excited to be doing this podcast with you because, like I said, it's a forever learning thing for me. And, I'm not coming on here and expecting to know everything about this world. I can't wait to keep learning and going on this journey together.
That's the purpose of this podcast. We are both coming on here because we don't know everything about everything there is to know in this queer world, and we're trying to navigate it. And I've been queer for over 8 years now, but I still don't.
Episode.
All right, but little cheeky teaser.
Cheeky teaser.
But I still don't know everything about this world, and neither do you. And that tells us that there is something lacking, and we need to share that. So we're going to help. We're going to help.
You're going to be a queer god.
We're going to help educate people.
Absolutely. This is all about exposure and education. So next time on the podcast, we've got Alyssa's story, which I am so mind blown by as well. It's unmissable.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first episode of Wait, You're Queer? Have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.